Welcome to the agenda with me, Lasha Kingsley in Douala, Cameroon. Every year, thousands of young Cameroonians graduate from state and private institutions or higher institutions. But most of these young Cameroonians are unable to use the knowledge they acquire in school to be able to put food on their table. Many of them are jobless. And on today's edition of the program, we are looking at what is wrong with the educational system of the country. And Dr. Ngwanyam is my guest tonight on the program. He has been working in the domains of trying to look for solutions to ameliorate or solve the problem of youth unemployment in the country. Mind you that his university or higher institution, St. Louis University Institute, prides itself for training quality self-employed professionals in the domains of health, agriculture, and technologies. What is wrong with our educational system and what should be done to change the narratives are some of the issues we'll be tackling tonight on the program. Stay with us as we come back after this short jingle break. Dr. Ngwanyam, thank you so much for joining me once again on this edition of The Agenda. Should we record, you were my second guest on this program when we created it 3 years ago. And of course, this is your third time of coming back. And today, we are talking youth unemployment and the educational system of the country. As we all know, every year, thousands and thousands of Cameroonians graduates from both the state and the private higher institutions. Most of these youths are jobless and they are unable to use the knowledge that they acquire from the university to put in food on their table. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you very much. And tonight we are discussing one of those topics that is really dear to my heart. And you know, I think a lot about youths. And we've been in this issue of training since 2002. So you can imagine it's not something I'm taking lightly. We are 20 years old in that now, and so I have been, you know, what pushed us to start doing it? Why do we do the things that we do? And why are we so strict with the students and the parents and everybody? Why do we say those things that many people will not like to talk about? It's because of the experience we've had, it's because of our mindset, it's because we do understand where we have gone wrong, and we are hoping that we can lead the nation and the youth and everybody in the right direction that is productive.
Yeah, Dr. Nick, today we are talking about higher education like I mentioned in my introduction. How would you rate the quality of higher education in the country, the curriculum that is being used, of which experts have said that the curriculum is poor and as a matter of urgency needs to be revised?
Oh, thank you very much. Before we get lost in it, but people might want to understand what is education for starters. You know, education is that training that youths get so that they can move their thinking and abilities from a point A to a point B. And at the end of the day, it's not, you don't just move their thinking and abilities for the sake of moving them. You want to be able to get them to a point where they can be creative, where they can learn to live with each other, where they can communicate effectively, when they can solve problems in their communities, where they can create wealth, where they can create the kind of world that they want for themselves, where they can compete with youths in other nations, where they can be proud of their own productions and so on, where they would have something to do, where they, you know, where they grow as human beings, and you know, they go through the phases, you know, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs until they go out of the triangle and reach that stage where they are, what is the transcendental phase, where they are useful to the community, where they treat others like they would like to be treated, where they feel that they are actually useful. So that is what education does. It brings you to that level of where you can make the best use of your capacities for yourself, for your community, and for your nation. So if the education doesn't bring you to that point, if education leaves you halfway, half-baked, then you cannot do those things. And that's why we are having a lot of problems in Cameroon. And that's why I keep saying that the youths in this country are in a poor state, and we ought to do something, otherwise there can be an explosion from their end.
What is it that is wrong with the educational system of the country, Dr. Nick? We are talking about higher education, and you happen to be one of the curriculum developers. And you've been so hard when it comes to this issue of making youths graduating and becoming self-employed. What is it that is not right with the curriculum that is being used in our universities?
Yeah, if you and I are discussing just the universities here, we'll get it wrong. Because education is a continuous process, and it starts from the foundation, in nursery school, in primary school, in secondary school, and then subsequently university. So if you and I are just discussing what is wrong with the education in university, what you are asking me is what is wrong with this palm, with this coconut tree that is not bearing fruit. You are questioning the coconut tree when it's already very, very, very hard up there and you cannot bend it. It's like trying to bend the back of an old tree. No, so we are dealing with a fruit that is, a tree that is already gone past correction. So the question we should be asking is, what is wrong with our university, our educational process? And the educational process starts from when we are still kids, and then the way you are formatted. So you grow in this picture, and then when you are getting to the university, you are kind of like just, those things become second nature to you, so that when you eventually come out from the other end as a professional, you are not thinking about it. It's not something that comes to you as a surprise. You know where you started, you know where you are going, and it's very clear, and you are very happy to be who you are. But the kind of education we've had so far, when you ask people what is education, oh, you go to school to read and write. No, that's not education. So basically what we have been doing is teaching our children to read and write. That's not good enough. The education, even when we think we have done very well, we make them pass some of these kind of tests that don't even make sense, and they score A grades and so on. We think we are doing very well because the children scored A grades. No, it's not about those grades. It's about capacity. So if we step back again, we say education is to allow children first to know themselves, to know their environment, to know their community, to understand principles, because the world functions on principles. Whether you're talking physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics, when you're talking living together, all of these are principles. When you say principles is nature. How does nature work? Then they learn to work with nature to achieve, not against nature. You work with nature, using the principles of nature, because nature is the truth. When you align yourself with the truth and work with truth, understanding the principles, you will get results. That's how it works. You sow, you will reap. That's how it works. So if you don't train your children to understand the concepts of nature and how nature works and how they can use those forces of nature to work for themselves, then of course the children will have a very hard time trying to row their boats upstream instead of going downstream. That is the point.
Yeah, Doctor, recently 3 Cameroonian universities were classified or ranked amongst 100 best universities on the African continent. The universities of Yaoundé 1 and Boya, as well as Chang. Yaoundé 1 was ranked first in French-speaking Africa. Then we had the University of Chang and Boya. This news came as a shocker to many Cameroonians. Does this ranking conform with realities on the ground? What is? Don't
get confused. Like when I'm talking with people, they would take something and say, look at this element. Because of this element, we are doing very good, and you get it all wrong. I'm glad you said that they ranked the University of Yaoundé as
first in Francophone Africa.
For speaking French?
French, yes.
For speaking French?
No, not speaking French.
For
in
what?
French speaking.
In French speaking Africa. I thought you said it for speaking French. I would have had the best laugh of my. No. Okay. See, I don't know what criteria they looked at, but more often than not, you know, they look at your presence on the web and what you are doing.
That's why I asked, do they conform with the realities?
No,
on the
it
ground?
doesn't conform.
When we know that thousands of youths leave universities each year, but they are jobless, and unable to use the knowledge they acquire in school, as per what experts are saying, to put food on their table.
That's right. You know, the university rankings, we need to understand what criteria they are using to rank our universities. And for starters, it's very important to make everybody understand that there are two kinds of universities in the world. And Germany is a great example of those universities. And that is what the Ministry of Higher Education is also trying to do in Cameroon. We have these universities where you go and study theory and you get and you get certificates. That's what most of our state universities are doing. You just go study and get some subjects and some theory, and you are given a certificate. You can go up to PhD and you know how to tell a story. That's it. Okay. But now you also have the professional universities. Now, the professional universities are the ones that make things happen. So when you go to a country like Germany, you see those Mercedes cars, those BMWs and all those things. They are built by professionals, people who have gone to professional universities. But the physics that goes into making those cars, comes from the people in those theoretical universities. Of course, they also do practicals.
Yes.
The physics and the research and development comes from those universities, where they bring the information now into these other universities, where they change them into production and then to factories. Is it making some sense what I'm saying? Did you get what I'm trying to say?
Following.
Good. But if you have, and don't forget, back out there, we need to also step back again to say something and lay a certain foundation so people can understand us. It's about economics. Life is about economics. And the way life works, I think we have mentioned it, there are three things that make things happen. There's politics, or what you call policies. There's economics, which is Afenkap.
Yes.
And then there's development. When we are talking about development, two elements: the human capacity development and the infrastructural development, the development of logistics, whatever you call them. So, and whatever happens, it is the human person, which is the human capacity index, the human capacity development, is that human person who makes those things happen. So when you train an individual very well, which is where the school comes in now, when the school system trains the individual very well, the individual is able to work the policies, work the economics, and work the development, and you have a good cake that is baked. But when the education is poor, you don't get these things to function. So now we are, and another thing, we are talking about the economics over here. When you go to a country like Germany that is developed, go to Japan, go to Israel, go to Finland, go to Singapore, find out the systems that create wealth and development. Those systems are based on STEM: science, technology, engineering, economics, and mathematics. That's what makes industry work. You need a little bit of the social sciences to turn the machine around. So if you are talking about industrialization and making things work and creating wealth, 70 to 80% of that is STEM-based. But if you come to a nation where 80% of your children are studying with arts, you are never going to make it. Are you getting the point?
What explains this fact? Does it mean that the government has not seen the need to copy what you are saying, or what is actually the problem? Because you are in that sector, and you know,
yes,
we even have people who leave Polytechnic in Yaoundé and Douala. They are still jobless. They are moving on the street, but they study technology, engineering in those universities that are called professional universities.
So there is a little problem somewhere. There is a little problem. So you and I have agreed that you need to study STEM to be able to make it. But when you are studying the STEM, that's the thing. You, as an individual, you need to study leadership. You need to study entrepreneurship. You need to have study emotional intelligence. You need to study communication. Have good communication skills. You need to be a good cook. You understand? Yes, you have the technology, you are the best engineer and so on, but you must have the right character, and you must have these tools for making for interaction, because you can be the best person, but if you cannot interact with the next person, you are going nowhere. You must be able to work in teams to produce. But you see, one other thing to that I would decry with our school system in Cameroon is that and Africa, we teach our children to compete against each other. It's wrong. All right, we are teaching them the wrong things. So we teach the children to read. You don't want to discuss with your friend, because if you discuss with your friend, he's going to beat you at the exams. So you hide in your small corner and do your things, come and write, and you are the first in class. In Finland, it's not done like that. Besides, in Finland, most of their studies are done without examinations. So we put children through this examination thing where they compete negatively with each other. But you realize that at the end of the day, once you have completed the education in secondary, in university, you need to create systems that you use to create wealth and cause development and create jobs and so on. And you cannot work alone. You now have to work with people in companies or industries to make things happen. But we have been used to competing, you understand, and not associating with each other, and not giving each other space. So at the end of the day, we don't, when we have now become mature and we have all these papers, I wouldn't know how to relate with you.
Does it not now go to talk about the fact that the moral aspect of this formation or building of students in a university, they are not taken into consideration?
Yes, yes.
And the moral now extends to corruption from what we are seeing, the politics that you talked about.
Yes. So it is about, we have people, you know, maybe they could be professors, people in ministry or whatever, people who have the power, who manage these things, but who don't have a grasp of how things work. Who don't have a grasp of how things work. Let me tell you, for instance, let us go to a hospital like Hôpital General. You know the Hôpital General.
Yeah, Vola,
yes.
Garwa, right.
The way general hospitals or all hospitals are supposed to work. Let's go to general hospital so that it's very clear.
Yes.
When you go to the general hospital, you would see there is the department of the surgery, there's obstetrics and gynecology, all these departments, right? And when you come to a department, you will see that there's the head of the department who will be a specialist and very seasoned person, with other specialists working under him, and then other junior doctors like that, then the nursing team and the technical team. So you have all these teams like this. And they are supposed to be working in teams. And then in some difficult cases, you will see the surgical team collaborating with the gynecological team and the internist to solve the problem. Are you seeing how teamwork goes? But unfortunately, because of ego, because of greed, people trying to make money, you would come like to the surgical team. You will see a doctor there you will see the doctors who are not working with the others or with their boss. They're in their own little corner dealing with patients at their live and then sucking some money out of the patients and not working with that team spirit. That's why you create something like a general hospital which is supposed to rise up in its technical abilities. It never rises up. At the end of the day, the general hospital has the spirit of a couple of divisional hospitals clumped together.
Health centers.
Is it making some sense?
So where do we start from here, doctor? I know you started 20 years ago somewhere, but where do we start? I'm talking about looking at the general perspective, not individual perspective. So where do we start?
We have to start.
So that probably in 10, 15 years,
good,
begin to have those kind of Cameroonians that can
make things happen. Yes, you are right, because it takes 10 years. It takes 10 years of continuous hammering to change something in the system, to change a human behavior. So you are right when you said in 10, 15 years. And I read in a book, if you want to change something, let's say even in America, in the educational system and have results, sometimes it will take 30 or 40 years. So we need to be aware of it and be intentional about it and go for it and change it, Otherwise, we are going to be in a mess for a very long time.
What does it take to carry out these reforms? Because the policy makers,
Good.
they have to be involved.
Yes, the policy
to change the
yes.
whole curriculum.
Yes.
You need it is going to be something tough.
Yes. So first, it starts with the policy, which is the politics. So there must be people who control the policy who say, actually, this thing we have to make a 180 degrees turn on this thing. All right. I know that at the Ministry of Higher Education, there are some changes. The curriculum is being revised, you know, and a lot of improvement is coming on. But you understand that, you know, even implementing it is not as easy as that. And these changes are not only supposed to be in the private higher institutes; they are supposed to be also in the state universities. So together, we have to begin to have this mindset change, and we should be looking at what is done in. We don't just.
But doctor, another shocker to many Cameroonians is that most of these big directors, inspectors at the level of Ministry of Basic, Secondary and Higher Education, they've studied abroad. Some of them have studied in Harvard University. They have studied in Finland. You're talking about some who have gone to Japan. We even have some mayors who have just defended their PhD thesis in Japan and whatever. But these people don't seem to want to. I mean, the will apparently is not there for them to transfer what they have acquired over there to apply in Cameroon or practice in Cameroon.
No, you have to understand.
What is the problem?
Yeah, you have to understand that most of these people you are mentioning, they leave from Cameroon with a tunnel vision, and then you go into a system out there, and then you have that tunnel vision, you study what you are supposed to study, then you enter the plane and come back. So just studying and getting a PhD is one thing. Having experience is another thing, and having the capacity.
But the exposure too.
And having the capacity to solve problems is another thing. You understand what I'm saying? So just having a degree, a PhD, just having a degree, a PhD doesn't mean you are someone who sees problems and can solve problems. Those are two different things. So you need to build people. You need to have people who have capacities, who can think outside of the box, who can step back and look at their environment, take it in, and analyze what is going on, and synthesize it, and bring some solutions on board. Okay, we don't have so much time. Otherwise, I could pick just pick some common examples from around to show you that we go around with eyes, but we are blind. That's
you said on several occasions that sometimes when these Cameroonians go out, they don't behave. You made a comparison of the Chinese, the Japanese, and the rest. That when most of these people, they go out, they steal technology, and they bring technology back into their various countries. But when we go out there, we go and come back with containers, and instead of stealing technology.
That is our problem. That is our problem. You see, again, you know, when the Asians are when they're coming back from the diaspora to their countries, they bring back technology on flash, on CDs, and so on, with the idea of, you know, starting the industries and so on. That's how Japan, China, they started. You know, South India and the others. But for us, we only send 20, 40 foot containers of old stuff and so on. That's not what develops a country. So technically, you know, what Cameroon should do now is to give all our youth in the diaspora, you know, the double nationality.
For them to come back home.
Correct. If you don't,
will it really solve the problem? We have foreigners who are coming to invest back home. Are they Cameroonian? They don't have Cameroonian nationality, but they are coming back here.
Good. Did you say?
Why can't we also come back like foreigners if we have the love for the country?
Why should a Cameroonian come back to his country as a foreigner? Why? No. A Cameroonian is a Cameroonian. We need to examine that very well. So the first and most important thing that you and I should agree on, that our Cameroonian youth should come back. Not necessarily coming back to stay. They should have an opportunity to come back, to fly in and out as if you are going to Bamenda and coming back. Are you getting what I'm saying? And to do that, they must have the double nationality. Because many of them went and took the nationalities of the countries abroad, and they didn't take the nationalities abroad because they hate Cameroon. No, that's not the reason. They took those nationalities to be able to allow them to get into the systems and of those countries and benefit from lower fees and many of the other things, and train themselves and be able to buy a house, go to school. So they took the nationalities for a reason. It's not, they didn't just take the nationalities because they hate Cameroon. And then now they are finished and they are trying to come back. Then you say you cannot come back because you're an American, you're a French. That's wrong. If we don't want to give them double nationalities, there is a way out. We can give them permanent residence permits. Because with that now, if they want to come to Cameroon, they don't need to go take a visa from the Cameroon embassy. You can imagine a Cameroonian going to the Cameroonian embassy to take a visa to come to his country. That's bullshit. So with this thing now, it's real bullshit. It's total bullshit. So they can now fly to the country. They can fly to the country at midnight, go back the next morning, fly again back the next day, and then things begin to happen. And then we give them the opportunity to come and begin to create industries in Cameroon. Not just coming back to come and eat corn and groundnut. No. To come and set up industries in Cameroon in collaboration with the youth that they left behind here. And then improve on the health sector, improve on the agriculture, improve on the educational system and so on. We need them to come and infuse what they have been learning over the years into our system, so that as we now recraft the new system, we have enough oil in the system to drive it forward. Is it making some sense?
Doctor, you are a curriculum developer, like I mentioned earlier. What piece of advice do you have for most students who just enrolled this year at different higher institutions in the country?
Let me say this, it is important.
Because the message might be coming late now. Most
Yes.
of them have already enrolled, probably to study history.
Yes, it's not late.
Sociology.
You can either correct yourself now so that you have a better life for the next 40 years, or you continue in your lack of understanding, and then you will pay the price. So, because you'll be surprised, there are a lot of people, there are some students who are studying with us who have master's degree, and have stayed out hoping that they could beat the system, but it doesn't work. And then they realize that they were backing the wrong horse, and they come and sit down and humble themselves and start from level 1, studying the right thing. Are you getting me? So you can pay the price. You can actually make a good choice through what do you say? By the advice that someone is giving you. Say, take this route.
So what is that piece of advice?
If you want to go through the machine yourself and find it for yourself, that is getting the facts through experience, you will pay with a lot of time and resources and so on. Don't forget that when you go to university, you are studying, it's time that you're putting in, it's financial means and so on. You'll be putting financial means and time in the wrong things, and at the end of the day, you will not feed yourself. This is it. Don't go to the university to study subjects. Standalone subjects. Those standalone subjects are not helping anybody, any day, anytime. They don't.
So let's say, for example, I am studying history now. I enrolled to study history. How would I study that history to come out and do something that will put food on my table?
That is the point. That is the point. I'm not saying we need historians.
Yes.
We need people who have studied physics, maths, all these things, okay? And if anything, actually we need more people who study maths, who study physics, who study chemistry, who study biology, so that they can build a pool of children who would be following this STEM education. Are you getting what I'm saying? But now, if you go and look at our secondary schools and our university settings, 80% of our children are into the arts. That's why when
what explains that fact? Is it because the sciences are difficult?
Yes, difficult in quotes. It's because we have not had very, very good teachers who teach the children the sciences in a way that they can understand. You see, because we try to just imagine things and we teach science as if we were telling a story. Science is not storytelling. You demonstrate it and children see it. You know, when I was in secondary school in CPC Bali with my mates many years ago, we were taught by some teachers who came from Holland, and they were teaching us the way they teach their children in Holland. That's why we think differently and we work differently. I mean, in CPC Bali. And we were in secondary school, we were doing a lot of experiments, we could do a lot of things, we could tell you a lot about we could tell a lot. In fact, by the time we left high school, we were feeling like small engineers. You understand? It's a mindset kind of thing. And so science is not something that you're going to be, oh, the world is round. And then people are imagining the world is round and so on. All those kind of things. No. You demonstrate it. What is the evidence that the world is round? What is the evidence that there's gravity? What is, you answer it and you let children do it. And then it's not very difficult. You start these things from nursery school and the children grow with it. But when you have even teachers of science who were taught by some other teachers of science who were not very good. So at the end of the day, we have teachers of science who are not very good, and therefore the children can catch it. So what you are saying is that we have to reformat our teachers of science. It's making some sense. And then take many of these students who have graduated with mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology from our universities, and economics, and then give them some other extra classes, like for 1 year in practical work, in how to deliver and so on. And then these are the ones now that should be teaching in our primary schools and secondary schools. They will build a new crop. And those, we make sure that in those primary and secondary schools we have laboratories to get the children going. It's very important.
Yes, you're just talking in the light of reforms. And what kind of reforms do we need in our university system such that graduates can live and become self-employed?
This is it. For any children who is going to any university of higher institute, the question is, what am I going to study? Ask yourself that question. Write it down. Write a composition and you answer these questions. The first question is, what? So we are going to answer 3 questions. What, why, and how. These 3 questions. What is it that I'm going to study? The next question is, why am I studying it? You must answer the why. Don't just study for the sake of, am I going to study that subject because my friends are in that faculty? Why exactly am I studying history? Why am I studying geography? Why am I studying women and gender, these things? Why am I studying microbiology? Why am I studying physics? Why am I studying mathematics? You must answer the why question. Write it down. It's not just something. Write it down. Then in the third part is, how am I going to study it? How am I going to, how am I going to study? Because the way you study is important. And how am I going to use the knowledge at the end of the day? What will I be doing with it? It's very important. If you just go to the school for the sake of going, at 30 years when you have had the PhD, you still realize you'll be crying on the streets.
And when you answer the why now,
yes, and
you come out, the reality is there, yes, to confront you.
Yes.
And if reality now becomes more than you, what, yes, will you do? Because knowing is one thing, the reality too, yes, is another.
And check the reality before you start. Let's say I want to go and study banking and finance. Then look at all the children that have gone to banking and finance and have studied and have come out. Find out what percentage of them are working in banks. Find out how many of them have opened their own banks. Find out where they are. You will realize that 95% of them are hanging on the streets. You get what I'm saying? Because you cannot just go opening banks and banks and banks. Yet, the problem is not opening a bank. The problem is, how do you create money that you put in the bank? So a lot of people will study, let's say, banking and finance. But if you try to ask them, how do you make money that you can put in the bank, they don't know. And many of our children will study banking and finance. Yet the man who makes the money is the Bamileke man. And the Bamileke man is not going to bring his money and come and give you to keep in your bank. Because keeping the Bamileke man keeping his money is the least of his headaches. Keeping the money is not a problem. So you are waiting for him to bring the money for you to keep. You are wasting your time. So the problem is, how do you make money? So, rephrase it again. What am I studying? How am I going to make money or anything out of it? And how am I going to feed myself? How am I going to feed my family? It's very, very important. And remember again, another way to rephrase all this is, to put it in context, is this. Nature, when I say nature, I'm not talking of the civil service, I'm not talking of something. Nature is the one that pays us for our job. You can say you are working here at the TV station, you are paid from the TV station. So this TV station is part of that nature paying you. So nature pays us not because we have a certificate. Nature pays us for our ability to solve problems. So in studying, identify a problem that you are going to be good at solving and for which nature is ready to pay you. Are you getting? That's the simple formula.
Thank you, Dr.
And then when you are looking for it, look for that one that you love, so that when you are working, it's like you are playing. Are you getting me? So work for you becomes play, not drudgery. It's very, very important that we keep that in mind.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ngwanyam, for answering my call this day once again to talk higher education and the reforms that needs to be carried out in this sector to better develop the economy of Cameroon.
Oh, thank you very much. It's very, very important to better develop the economy of Cameroon. We have to change very radically, because you see, we spend all our money importing things from abroad when we ought to be producing things here and exporting. And if we don't change that paradigm, we are going to be very poor. And the only way we can create jobs for our youth is for our youth to be able to create jobs here, and not, we have to stop selling raw materials and begin now to sell but finished goods. And before I drop the microphone, just to say that even as we speak, Germany needs 250,000 nurses, and they would employ them. America needs millions. Canada needs them. Britain needs them. Germany, like I said, Germany needs them. So it's about the way you think and what you want to do.
Thank you.
Solve a lot of problems.
Thank you for coming, Doctor.
Okay.